we can't. We record on Monday. There's a couple of games here, and you have to follow up with West Ham beating Leeds 2-0. That's always nice to see.
Wow,
Chelsea taking it to Everton, which does help our top 4 chances a little bit, I guess, if we're even going to try to hold on to that. But a bunch of other games, and I don't know, I'll give you boys each a game each to touch base on. John, which one of those you think kind of spoke to you the most this weekend?
I mean, at 21-1, the streak is over. Professional wrestling fans will understand what I was going for there, but the Manchester
Nobody
Derby,
in this room though.
Yep.
The Manchester Derby was, of course, that's always an event. I think it was a fascinating sort of scenario where it's a question of like how good Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is considered to be game to game, and it kind of seems like he's back to being a genius and going to challenge for the title next season. I think it kind of comes down to me, like, he's just kind of okay, and maybe a little bit better than okay based on what he's doing with the squad that he has. But I will say that when United can't get a penalty and Bruno Fernandes can't put that penalty away, what do they have going for them, really?
I didn't get to watch the game, but yeah, an early penalty, and it was a penalty. I watched the highlights, but I didn't get a sense of the game, a sense of the flow. And you're right; it seems like they always get that early break, that goal, and that just takes them the rest of the way.
And Luke Shaw with the dagger,
and that was a bit of an odd one. It was a bit of a screen. I think lucky got through 3 different players, and Ederson didn't even move. Yeah. So
it's also just kind of an interesting thing. Like if you look at to me the best managers in the Premier League right now, I think like in terms of points totals over the last 4 years, you're looking at Klopp and you're looking at Pep. Pep's subs in that game were not good either. So it might just be a thing.
Well, right? It goes back to the argument that Pep overthinks big games. No, I mean, I would be hesitant to call this a big game. I think it's a big game in the context if you're chasing records.
Manchester Derby, it's always.
Yeah, and you're chasing a world record for most, continuous wins. So that could be a part of it. And I think that's why he suffers in the Champions League. The game I want to talk about, though, was a game that brought me to a certain amount of tears as someone who, as a young lad, loved Gareth Bale. And that was the Spurs game. Now, I got to say, we got to witness a Harry taking down the Palace without the help of Oprah.
Hey. Oh.
Thank you.
That joke's not going to age well, but okay.
No, I thought it was an awesome... It depressed me because a front three of Bale, Kane, and Son were able to produce just that amazing results. 2 goals for Bale, both assisted by Kane. 2 goals for Kane, both assisted by... one assisted by Bale, one assisted by Son. And they just were utterly dominant. And now look at Spurs. They're in the top 4.
Head of us now.
Head of us, yeah. Head of Liverpool.
We can say us.
I don't want to associate myself with them these days.
Hey, if you can't cheer for them and support with them when they're down,
you're right.
You can't support them when they're up.
You're right.
Come on, we're going down with the ship if we have to.
No, but I thought that was a really really entertaining game. And I got to say, I mean, I don't know about you guys, I'd like to see Bale firing again. I felt like he was in prison at Real Madrid.
I think he was in a self-made prison too.
Must suck winning three Champions Leagues in a row.
Yeah, but he was just a dick about stuff.
He was. I mean, it was very entertaining.
I'm sorry, but have you never been in a job that you don't like?
Yeah, but
he's getting paid an awful lot to be.
You're doing
but it is a situation
there's a professional way to be, and that was not it.
I see both sides of it, but it's just kind of it to me, I understand why he's doing better in a scenario where he's probably back in London, back amongst family, back amongst a bunch of people who actually speak the language that you speak.
Can you imagine living in a country for 7 years and never learning their language?
Just refusing to. That is the actual.
There's a lot
thing
about Gareth Bale that's hilarious. You got to admit.
That is actually the most galling thing to me. Is just he just flat out refused to learn Spanish.
It's like Bielsa. I don't know how Bielsa has managed to be a coach of Leeds and still need an interpreter at press conferences.
I think what it is that he can speak English well enough. It's just he chooses not to in front of the press.
Okay, so Bale is horrible, but Bielsa gets a pass. I knew you were a Leeds fan. I knew you were a closet Leeds fan this whole time.
Listen, I just like the bucket, okay?
So we'll leave the Gareth Bale loving and the Leeds loving alone, because that's a dark turn for this podcast.
I just want to say, like, out loud, no, I do not love Leeds.
All right. Well, we'll take your word for it for right now. So let's move on. We've got some other topics to touch base on outside of the league and inside of Liverpool's offices. And one of my segments I like to throw in at these guys is the agree or disagree, or the fuck yeah or hell no. So let me know how you guys feel about these statements here. I got 3 of them to start with. First one, it comes from Liverpool Offside, the SB Nation website. From this weekend, or more or less the Fulham game, the winners and losers for that game. Winners, referencing Liverpool players, Jota, Keita, Alisson, and Phillips. And losers, anyone tasked with scoring goals. Agree or disagree, or fuck yeah, hell no, Ben?
I think that would just be agree with me. I mean, I don't know Alisson. Like, Alisson has not been playing well. Had some personal tragedy, and I get that. But before and after, there hasn't really been a lot of change. The goal against Fulham was a savable goal. Yeah, you're a keeper, JP. What do you think?
I did message you guys and said I was a little disappointed with that one. It was a far post from the side, and full disclosure, I had a game last night, and I had 2 goals scored on me like that, and I was kicking myself because I was quite mad about that.
You're supposed to kick the balls, JP.
Obviously, you've never played the game before.
No, I thought
there's plenty of other things you can kick in the game there.
Yeah, I would agree that Jota and Keita, I thought, were pretty impressive.
And I'll give Keita, I'll give Naby a little love, because that article John was referencing earlier was more about his defensive capability, which I never really looked into. But even this game, he was a little more offensive and a little more decisive, which was great. And Phillips, I thought, did all right. John, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of an agree for me too. I think saying that anybody tasked with scoring a goal deserves a jeer, but Jota deserves a cheer, kind of seems like a weird take, but to me, I understand what they're kind of going for.
It can be on both sides.
One last thing I'll say about Keita is I'm hoping that, because he was kind of given a little bit more of a layoff after his most recent injury, he wasn't rushed back into the midfield as he has been in previous. I'm kind of hoping every time we see him, we see a little piece of the £50 million midfielder that we bought. But
what total are we at so far? Like 10 million then?
We're getting up there. I'm just hoping that over time we're able to see a little bit more, and I think there's always going to be a certain amount where he's going to get the stick of you cost this much and you're only just getting the return on investment this number of years later.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If he starts performing for Liverpool, I don't really care what he cost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and let's get him performing. The next one, agree or disagree, fuck yeah, hell no. Top 4 is now a hope and a prayer away. John?
So agree is kind of like the
agree that it's just a hope and a prayer.
That's the
soft fuck yeah, so I'm going to give agree just on that. I think that.
So you think there's still a reasonable chance we might get in the top 4?
I think it's going to come down to the last day of the season if it comes to anything, and we will either be. I think it's going to be one of those things where we're either going to be 4th or we're going to be 7th. You know what I mean?
Well, the way the table's shaping up, it's kind of realistic. Ben, what'd you think?
I'm going to give a fuck yeah, in that it's likely not going to happen.
Yeah,
I feel that the way Chelsea's been playing, they pretty much got top 4 locked up, and then we're kind of relying at this point. Spurs, which have, as I just mentioned, been really clicking as a team, and their front 3 is really waking up and playing really well together. Leicester, okay, yeah, they're starting to look like they're heading towards their late season collapse, but they're still winning games.
They squeaked that game. I was going to bring that one up, but we're running a little long, so I didn't want it. But they squeaked out that win at the end.
And then West Ham today, just another victory. I mean, it's against Leeds, but still they're up there. So I think, when you got all that going against you for that 4th place spot, I don't think it's going to happen.
What I will say though, Ben, is that Spurs, like you always say, they're just a breath away from seeing a Son or a Kane injury, which is going to have a major effect.
But now Bale's kicking,
and Lucas
Bale is
Moura,
kicking. Bale is kicking, absolutely. But
Højbjerg.
We are starting to see more and more people in the UK starting to get the vaccine, which means eventually golf courses are going to open, and Bale will be distracted.
Okay. The last temptation of Gareth.
That is a valid point there. I'm pretty much at the point, and I was pegging it. I knew we were in trouble coming into the Christmas break, and then it just got worse, and I've basically conceded we are not getting top 4 now. This is just
I gotta say though, is that necessarily a bad thing? Well, financially, yes, but
I do not see any positives.
So I mean, I use the example of Chelsea. When Leicester won the league, they finished like 7th or something. They missed out on Europe entirely, and then they won the league the next year because that's all they could focus on. They bought some new players, which again, a lot of this is incumbent on,
I hate that focus on one thing mentality that people use that argument. I hate that. So you're preaching the wrong choir for that one.
Looking for positives here, JP.
That's okay. You know what? My next one's a positive. We're going to go into some quotes from some people here. So give me a like, a dislike, or a super like if you're on Tinder there for these quotes. Steven Gerrard's title is one of the greatest achievements by former England international, referencing the Rangers clinching the league this weekend. That was from Oliver Kay at The Athletic. Ben, what do you think, man?
I don't want to go so far as to say that it was a huge achievement because the Scottish Premier League is
the Scottish Premier League.
It's a 2-horse race. So I mean, good for him for dethroning Celtic, I guess, but it was a good achievement. I don't think it was one of the greatest achievements.
Now, and I'm going to throw this one to you, John. I'll give you a little more info on there. They're undefeated.
Yeah,
4 draws. They could tie Celtic's record as an invincible season there.
Yeah, to me, like Ben, you calling it a 2-horse race for a long, long time, it has been a 1-horse race, and Stevie has been able to break that up with a sort of a resurgence. They went down out of the league, I think, due to administration. I can't remember exactly, but the Rangers are back in terms of their ability to win titles, and I think that Stevie did really well. Recently saw him getting a red card for telling off a referee at halftime, which was just like,
I think
that's the Stevie G I know and love.
The thing I'm excited about is he's clearly following the footsteps of Graham Souness here, in that managing Rangers, then making the switch over to Liverpool. Hopefully, he's a little more successful at Liverpool than Graham Souness was. Rather, I'm still hoping we get a couple more years of Klopp. Don't get me wrong. But if we're continuing on this train, especially if we get some European success, I think he'll be a pretty good successor.
I could be quite happy with Gerrard doing great and then having him come over and succeed Jurgen Klopp there.
Like, he could genuinely win the Europa League with
the
squad.
And here's the other thing. We got a Canadian boy on that squad, Scott Arfield. And
former captain.
And he's playing. He's getting in there. He subbed in on the last game. And so, man, that's great seeing a good Canadian boy in there.
I will say, back to your Europa League point, if they win the Europa League, that will be an incredible achievement from a former English national. That will be huge because you got to compete with Spurs, United.
That would slap a lot of those Arsenal, English teams in the face.
It would. That would be a huge achievement. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, that would be huge.
And I think ultimately it would for me, just emotionally be really good so that I could just look at any Chelsea fan and just say Stevie is better than Frank. Period.
And just for your own knowledge, their Rangers' next match on March 11th is against Slavia Prague. So I have no idea how good they are, but we'll see.
We should all check it out.
We'll see that. All right, let's go back to a little more depressing comment here, and this is from James Pearce on The Athletic. The most damning assessment of the defeat by lowly Fulham was that it wasn't a surprise. It was a display in keeping with a club that has lost its way alarmingly. I got to agree. I'll super like this quote because I've been saying it for months now. There was something wrong. Things are getting worse, and the ship has to be righted. And it has not been righted by Klopp or anybody. So, scares me. Ben, I mean, do you agree with this quote?
I did. I mean, watching that Fulham game, you could see the writing on the wall. Even before Fulham scored, you kind of just felt it was coming.
Yep.
So when they lost 1-0, I wasn't disheartened. I wasn't upset because it felt like that was always going to happen.
And sorry, before you jump in, John, I'm going to retread our Fulham recap. None of us actually said this, but Fulham deserved to win that game.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
We maybe just assumed it, but nobody actually said it.
To their credit, Fulham's been in really good form.
Relatively, yeah.
And I didn't watch that game live. I literally I had some other things on the go, and I was going to try and catch the second half. I looked at the stats, and I said, "Well, this is a game we're not going to win." It was I had more chores to do type of thing, and choice between doing those later and doing them right in the moment. I chose to do them right in the moment.
Smart.
In terms of Liverpool losing their way, yeah, I think absolutely. Like, we are in a moment that we haven't been in under Klopp, period, and certainly in a very, very long time.
In any